What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another week of Tower Talk Show. This time we are on reset day, so happy reset day to you. Go buy... No, there's not very many cute things to buy in Eververse right now, so don't do that. We are at that awkward stage in between Halloween and Thanksgiving, so if you're a heathen, that means Christmas has already started. There's Christmas music happening. Christmas has taken over all of the stores. I had to fight my wife to not put up a Christmas tree in our house. So I guess if you don't believe in Thanksgiving, then Merry basically Christmas to you. Gamer, you have a Christmas tree up in your house, don't you?
We did, yeah. Happy wife, happy life, man. She wants the Christmas tree up. I'm putting that Christmas tree up, man.
No.
It's not wrong.
You gotta fight the power. But anyways, yeah, we have all of the things.
Doesn't go well.
What are you talking about? It always goes my way when I fight with my wife. All the time.
All the time. All the time, 50%.
Dude, your wife's Latina. Don't lie.
She never makes me sleep on the couch.
You don't win any fight.
That's what I mean. Like our Christmas tree is about to go up. Is basically what's gonna happen. I told her we had to wait until after Thanksgiving dinner. I don't think it's gonna go that long. She bought lights and was like, "Hey, look, you can hang these out front." I was like, "Or we can wait." But anyways.
Lights a little different. Lights you can put up, man, because that takes a long time, dude. Like the faster you can put lights.
Light setup.
Wait, you don't put like legit lights up?
No, yeah, but you're saying like be preemptive about it, like just get them up there just to have them up.
Yeah, get them up there just to have them up. Like 'cause that part is just like that part sucks, man.
Okay, so the three of you are native Arizonans. I'm the only outcast that's not from the state natively, right? Do any of you? I already know the answer from two of you. I guess Taka, you're the only one that I don't know. Do you do a fake tree or do you buy a real tree?
Fake, 100%.
What the freak? What is wrong with you people?
It looks better.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, no one. Yeah. First of all, I'm Mexican. Like, I don't think you'll know any Mexican family, like, full on, that would go and buy a Christmas tree. No, we're just straight up artificial, man.
Okay, that's. I guess sure. My wife didn't ever have like a legit, not like real, but like a live Christmas tree until we got married. That is true. Yeah. She grew up in Mexico. I don't know if the supply is really up there with the demand on actual Christmas trees.
Not in the Sonoran Desert.
This is the Sonoran Desert. Like
exactly. That's why people use fake trees.
So here's my thing though. Like I get it. If it's the ease of use, it's cheap. It's the same thing every year. It's easy. Whatever. It looks cute. Whatever fake lies you want to make up for having a fake Christmas tree. But what I don't get is how do you guys get around not having your whole house smell like Christmas tree? Like that is one of the reasons that you do a real tree, because it smells like freaking pine in your house and it's amazing.
There's ways to fix that.
Yeah, there's pine cones, there's
little
candles,
things you hang on the tree so it smells.
There's like that spray stuff.
Like potpourri crap.
There's a lot of stuff you can make it smell like Christmas, dude.
Or you could just go get some real freaking nature and put that up in your house.
Yeah, my wife.
And start a fire in my house.
All over your floor.
Why would you start a fire in your house?
Dude, they're dangerous. Like with the lighting and stuff, like something go wrong, it counts.
What is this? The 60s?
Dude, it happens. It happens.
Trees.
Like stats show that people around this time get their house burned down because
wait, hold up.
They don't know how to put it up.
Beard, you don't put candles on your tree?
No, of course not.
Wow.
But it's an actual legit tree. Like it's alive, living.
Yeah, that
they
burns.
Don't catch on fire. No, they.
And then you gotta like dispose of it.
Yeah, tell that to California.
Okay. The disposal part, I will give you that. That part does blow when it comes to a real tree. But legit, the scent of the pine throughout my entire house, 100% worth any of the issues that come with. I've never known anybody's house to have burned down like within the past 30 decades from a Christmas.
I think you have to like actually put the lights on the tree every time.
Yeah.
Do you not do that with the fake one?
They come pre.
No, mine comes with it, dude. I just
dude.
What?
pot them up and it's there, dude. Yeah.
You literally just like put it together and plug it in. The lights are already on it. They stay on it forever.
You guys' Christmases suck.
What? But, I mean, you still gotta decorate it. They don't come with decorations.
Well,
Like,
it's already glued onto the thing. Like, what's the point?
You know, we might actually be able to make some money here. Pre-ornamented trees.
dude, not.
Okay, that was my next question. Do you just like whatever ornaments Walmart decides you need on your tree? Do you just leave those on your stupid fake tree too?
Yeah, you know, like when you buy a picture frame and there's like a nice little family in there. It's like it just comes like that on the tree.
That's just what's on there.
You just roll with it.
Don't tell me you're wood carving all your ornaments also and like stick them in the tree, dude.
Dude, every year, that's part of the like the Christmas tradition is like we go get another ornament for that year with like the names of our kids and like the year that it is.
Me and my wife do that for like 1 year of being married and stuff like that. But like,
okay, yeah.
Yeah, we got those. I mean, you can still do those traditions with a fake tree. Now you need like a legit tree like to like enjoy.
Yeah, I don't think your argument's valid.
Just spray cologne on your trees to make it smell like Christmas.
That
should be enough.
My wife buys these little like plastic needles you just hang in the tree.
You can do or you can do the pine cones.
And they blend in because they're green, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like.
So you have to do extra work anyway. So what's the? I mean, why not
it's
just
only
pick up
dude,
the dead
it's
pine
literally like an extra $2.
Dude, it comes in a little tube this big, and you just like stick them in the tree. I don't even do it. My wife does it. So
it's literally like
camouflage green ornaments that
they're
smell
little
like
green sticks.
No, they're like little tubes, like
they're
sticks,
potpourris.
dude. Like scented candles, pretty much.
Yeah, they also make those. Light a candle in your kitchen. Now it smells like pine. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and let me guess, a cheese crispy is like a whole thing in Arizona too.
Cheese crisp is a real thing. It's not crispy. It's a cheese crisp.
I don't know what that is.
Get it right.
I don't even know what a cheese crisp is. What is it?
It's a quesadilla that isn't folded.
Oh, what the frig, dude? Just call it a quesadilla. What the freak?
Dude, it's good.
You guys are getting too American for me here.
No,
dude.
I have to give that to my kid because if it's folded, it just looks like a white square. She won't eat it. If she sees the cheese on top, she's like, cheese in the mouth. So I can't make legit quesadillas for my kid. She won't eat them.
It's a quesadilla that's not folded.
You just throw cheese on top of a tortilla. And
so what makes it crisp?
You like fry the tortilla and you put cheese on it. Like,
oh well, that's different.
Thank you.
what do you?
That's not a quesadilla. That's not folded.
Okay, hold on. You have to specify because Beard's thinking fried cheese. Okay, you fry the tortilla with the cheese on it, so the tortilla is crispy.
Oh yeah.
All right.
I call those inside out quesadillas where you.
That's way longer than cheese crisp, bro.
No. You put the cheese on like whatever you're cooking with. In my house, it's just like this cast iron flat thing. You toast the cheese on there and then put the tortilla on top of that because it's toasty cheese. That's a whole thing.
That is a great segue into talking about stasis.
No, here's what's a great segue into talking about stasis. Your guys' freaking Christmas traditions with your fake tree BS. Stasis is BS in the Crucible. There's your segue.
I honestly thought you were going to single out warlocks, but that's cool.
Well, they are ice wizards.
With a little.
See, but nobody likes them right now. They're like the Krampus of Christmas.
No one's ever liked them, dude.
Dude, they have more ice than Elsa, and that's out of control. She's Disney. They're meant to be overpowered.
She made a whole castle out of it too, and warlocks have even more than that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, and it is an entire thing. I've actually kind of just been like mentally avoiding it because
we've noticed.
Well, that's because I'm gonna say so. I think the four of us are gonna say some things that a lot of people don't agree with. We'll just preface this entire podcast not by your stupid fake tree traditions here in Arizona.
You brought it up.
But we will preface this by saying
I don't even live in Arizona anymore. It's still a tradition.
Yeah, you went backwards. We actually don't think that stasis is as busted as everybody makes it out to be. Boom. That's going to kick off.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Later.
There are things that we can't stand. There are things that definitely do suck. But for the most part...
there's things that should be tweaked. and I think we're going to go into detail on some of them, but it feels like the entire community is mass calling for nerfs across the board on stasis. And I think it's knee-jerk reaction to the fact that versus dying from abilities that might be on another subclass, you get frozen, emoted on, and then shotgunned as you break out, and it just triggers people more than, a face full of handheld supernova would. So,
face full of grapes.
Face full of grapes.
So that's the interesting thing, though, is like, how many things has Bungie turned off this week? They've turned off. They delayed trials. They turned off just like within the past 2
Wither
hours.
Horde.
Wither Horde. Wither Horde and Rose.
The Nightfall.
Rose.
Rose.
The no perk gun.
It's because they forgot to switch Rose to a 140. It was still a 150. That's game breaking.
Busted. Yeah, let's not talk about Sunshot.
They've turned off enough things to where if they actually thought that the freaking Ice Wizard Warlocks were performing in a way that they shouldn't have been, like, they would have already addressed it. Right? They haven't, which kind of leads me to believe that it's like...
Well, here's my take on it. Is that I think disabling like activities or things like that, I think that's easy to do. Because, or like weapons or stuff like that, they can just turn, like with a Horde, they just disable it and boom, you can't use it for a while. Things like that. I think that's kind of like manageable to do, but to disable a whole subclass, you're going to like piss off a lot of people who are just now getting into the game, who are playing. Could they disable a whole subclass? Yeah, probably. For sure. They could probably do it. But like people are getting into the game, people probably don't have their warlocks. They're working on their stasis warlock. You know what I mean? So, like, disabling a whole subclass will just tick off a lot. It will be more crazy than it has been lately.
It's the appeal of the expansion. Is this new subclass?
Exactly.
You can't just shut it down. But of all the subclasses, I would say that's the one that needs some tweaking.
Yeah,
and not even talking about the bugs, just the subclass itself, right?
Subclass, just
exactly. Because obviously there's bugs in the game that's making that super ridiculous. But outside of the bugs, the subclass is pretty stinking OP.
Not the delete the raid boss glitch. We're talking just the way the subclass functions.
Well, right, because that is actually a glitch. Like,
it doesn't work with all bosses either. It works, with some strike bosses. It works at gambit bosses, and it works in some raid bosses. It didn't work on like Garnet Salvation. It just depends on how that boss, the mechanics on that boss works.
Bungie's hopping into the new raid right now and testing every boss.
That's what I'm guessing too. I'm sure they tried it and they're like, okay, it's not game breaking. We're going to keep the raid on.
Did you guys see that? Did you guys see that clip on Twitter from Holtzman?
Yeah.
Where he was talking about like what he did at Bungie. And he was like, yeah, like, I actually tested this exact thing right here. And he's, like, doing some event on the Cosmodrome. And he shoots at one of the Hive ships. And then it just, like, falls out of the sky and then disappears into the ground. And he was like, well, I didn't see that when I was play testing. It's like this part that he was actually in charge of. So that's, like, for whatever reason, like, bugs happen. Like, they push the expansion back to work on some things, and then there's still bugs that slip through the cracks somehow. Yep. It's just kind of been amazing at like how quick they are to like plug up all these holes. Like there's been so many things that have gone wrong this week that they've had to jump in and fix. In all honesty, though, it's kind of like this whole stasis thing. Like love it, hate it, whatever the case is. At this point, I feel like pretty much everybody's had their chance to at least get some playtime with it, at least on one subclass. And I want to pose a question to you three. For as broken as we might think it is, now that we've actually played with it for about a week, would you want to give it back?
Take it out of the game?
Yeah, would you want to just stop playing? Like, would you rather it just not be there? Like, not a chance.
No, it's too fun.
I think it's fun. I think it's a great addition to the game.
It does have its place in some ways. Right.
So real quick, I think it's important to highlight some of the reasons why we don't think it's busted, because again, the sentiment, at least that I've seen, and I'm sure you guys can echo across the community on Twitter, just playing with other friends and people, everybody seems to jump to this whole freezing is busted, stasis is broken. It's clearly better than the other classes. Why would you even go back to play the other ones, and so on and so forth. There's a few aspects about stasis innately that maybe some people don't understand, and then there's some comparisons we can draw from other subclasses we'll get into and why it's not as busted. But off the bat, we recognized last week, and I don't know if you guys have, I haven't seen anybody talk about the regen speed on abilities for stasis. Have you guys seen anything on any content creator even point it out?
I've heard one that I remember.
I haven't seen any, but for those listening, if you didn't know, you can do it on your own game. Don't switch up your armor or anything. Leave your stats where they're at, and toggle between light subclasses and stasis, and your ability regen for melee, grenade, and super are all slower on stasis. They're innately take longer to regen your abilities on stasis as a form of balance. And so when we're talking about, these abilities are so strong, in my personal opinion, if you're going to be able to use it less often, the offset needs to be more powerful. And so we take the grenades, for example. They all feel very strong. Pretty much all three of them. All three of them have the potential of freezing. The dusk field pulls people in and at least slows them if they're able to get out. They don't get frozen, but they're all very strong. Well, on a tier 4 or 5 in a light subclass, you're at about a minute on the recharge rate for a grenade. On stasis, you're at about a minute 20 or a minute 30 or so at the same level at tier 4. And so already it's taking 40% longer to get your grenade in comparison to other subclasses. Same thing with the melee. And so that in and of itself means that you can't... Yeah, super takes longer as well. And if you get up to tier 9 or 10, that distance shrinks significantly compared to the light subclasses. You may only be 10 to 15 seconds longer versus 20 to 30 seconds. That being said, that requires you to then spec into that, and you can't spec 100 discipline, 100 strength, and 100 intellect. It's not possible. And so you're having to choose one or the other on which one you're going to play to, or you're going to try and keep them kind of even across the board, and it's still going to take you longer than light subclasses. So that, off the bat, in my opinion, brings a level of balance in comparison to other abilities.
I do still see, though, that I feel like pretty regularly people do end up getting 2 supers in a match of 6v6.
Yeah, if you're running intellect, you can still get them fairly frequently. I have a build with, I think it's tier 8 intellect, and it's about 4 minutes and I want to say 10 to 15 or so seconds. So that's usually about where I sit at tier 6 or 7 intellect. So it requires me a couple levels more, but it still allows me to keep my intellect high enough to where I can keep my getting my super back fairly frequently, especially if I'm getting kills in the match, which is a big factor on how quickly you get your super as well. So
well, they also have like fragments and stuff where if you freeze or whatever, you can get increased super regeneration, or you get more super.
Wait, what? That's a fragment in the game?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah,
But I think it gives you -10 in 2 of your stats.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's discipline and strength, or I don't remember exactly.
Intellect. There's intellect on one, there's strength on the one. Like the one that regens your class ability takes away 10 of your strength.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they have.
That's crazy.
So, there's one where if you shatter ice, it increases your grenade recharge rate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing is it's like last week, our first Crucible match, the first time you ever got frozen, it was just like, this is out of this world, this is so busted, it's so whatever. But you play with it for a couple days and kind of learn the strengths and weaknesses of it, and I think the first time you just use a mere ability to basically shut down a whole super, then you're just kind of like, whoa, I like this. But then it's like you get into the aspects and fragments and it's like broken all over again. It's like the subclass itself it does have its place in the game, but for whatever reason I feel like the fragments just kind of tip it over the edge. It's like back over to the broken side of things.
Yeah.
And I don't really see anybody run Traveler's Chosen is huge, I feel like, on stasis, because
awesome.
Because even though your abilities take longer, and whether that's a percentage or it's just like a linear amount that it's X amount slower on your recharge, Traveler's Chosen you still get the same amount of energy back. per stack basically. So that's
percentage-wise, yeah.
Yeah.
And when it comes to armor too, every class has something that can help the recharge rate of their abilities. Your warlock, warlock has what's the stupid helmet I can never think of?
I have
the other world.
That one, which for people who don't know, because it doesn't show up on your stats, it gives you a plus 30 to discipline, strength, and I believe recovery for your regenerating your rift. So that innately just ups everything by 3 tiers. You have Frosties for the hunters, and you have Heart of Inmost Light for the Titans, where you can pop a barricade and your grenade and your melee regen speed will increase. So every class has something they can use to lean into improving that regen speed, but it does mean you're giving up potentially another exotic you might prefer to run. So yeah, there's ways to potentially abuse these abilities with stasis by improving that recharge rate, but that's the same thing across the board. We all used to hate dying to handheld Supernova because everybody would run it with Controverse Hold, which would help regen that grenade and give them more defense while they're using it. Still a thing, by the way, but you really have to lean into that grenade if you're going to choose that exotic. And so you're giving up maybe a neutral game exotic like Transversive Steps or Ophidian Aspects to really lean into, I'm going to play using this grenade. You can do the same thing on Stasis, but you're giving up that Worm Husk, that Stompies, those Dune Marchers, One-Eyed Mask, all those other things in order to decide that I want to try and abuse these abilities, which means if you use an ability and you don't get a freeze, you don't get a kill, something, you're now out that ability until you can get it back. So there's pros and cons to the subclass just like any other.
What are you going to say, Gamer?
Oh, no, I agree with former Guardian.
That's cute. I was going to throw out there the fact that innately by themselves, at least in PvP, none of the stasis abilities as a standalone ability actually kill. And it's mind-boggling that a subclass that is as lethal as stasis is doesn't actually kill anybody. Like, that's kind of weird. Like, everybody complains about the ice wizards running around and freezing everybody, but it's like, cool, the melee, all it does is just freeze. But it's the fact that the freeze mechanic is so strong that makes the subclass incredibly powerful. In my opinion, like we've said already, that there are some balancing aspects to it that does make it's not as broken as I think a lot of people say it is.
Yeah.
In that sense, the ability recharges longer. The abilities don't actually kill anybody. I don't know. There are ways, I think we've all kind of kicked around ideas on how to make the freeze mechanic a little more, I don't know, give it some type of comeback. But because there isn't really. It's like you're frozen, you're pretty much dead unless the other guy just messes up or like gets killed before he can shatter you.
Yeah,
a lot of coming back from it.
I mean, like, I don't want to jump in too much into the Warlock subclass, you know. I just think that what makes that just too lethal, in my opinion, is the fact that it just one hit freezes you, versus like a Titan and a Hunter, like a melee for a Hunter, you gotta throw 2 of the shurikens, and then like the chance of you getting 2 to start off with is kind of like tough already. You know what I mean? So like, and then you have to throw it. It doesn't track like a Warlock one does, and then you know for the Titan one, you know it doesn't one hit kill, and also like you have to really rely on someone being frozen for that melee to just like be really really lethal. So I guess that's just my part where I think the Warlock one, if you combine it with the grenade, the whatever it's called that tracks
Cold
instant
snap.
freezes, yeah, you use that with that melee, that's just too lethal for a Warlock. You know what I mean? It's just they can instant freeze in any opportunity and then just pick you up. You know, for me that just seems too a little overpowered than a regular subclass. But like I said, I don't want to get too much into it, but you know, like Warlocks are having all the fun right now. That's awesome. But for me, that just seems a little too OP for me.
The Warlock melees, you don't even have to hit them directly with it.
The radius is massive.
It's an area of effect. So like if you hit one guy, it'll freeze him, and it also freezes the dude next to him. Or if you hit the ground, or if you hit the wall next to him, like it's still going to get the freeze off. Like you don't even have to be that accurate with it for it to still get the powerful freeze off. Whereas with the Titan melee, it is a little tough to aim it and hit people. And then the shurikens, you have to hit 2, and you have to at least hit the first target. They do have the insane chain bouncing potential, which is really cool.
It does have to be reasonable, I've noticed, though. Like, you can't be in the air, chuck it down and expect it to hit and then go level and hit somebody. Like, it doesn't do that. It'll ricochet up if you're in the air throwing it down. So you do have to have some sense of kind of geometry, per se, when you're throwing those if you're trying to bank shot somebody. But
I do feel like the bouncing on the shuriken is more generous. I don't know if you've noticed this too in PvE.
Yeah, absolutely.
Versus PvP. Like, when you hit an enemy in PvE, it'll just shoo and kill like 5 dudes, like regardless of where they are. Like,
when we were running that Nightfall, though they changed the Cosmodrome, all the thralls were running. I just kept chucking shurikens and it just kept killing all of them. Like, it feels really nice that on.
Dude, it's so much fun. That's the thing about the Hunter, though, is it's like, it out of all the busted subclasses that we're talking about, it's definitely the most balanced. But I think that makes it fun in a way. It's not just like go freeze everything.
And like going back to Warlocks too, then then you pair something with like the Claws of Ahamkara. It's just
doubling up on the melee.
Yeah, double up on melee. So it's just.
So do the Warlocks have a shatter ability though?
No, you have to shoot it.
Yeah, you have to go shoot it.
Crystals,
yeah.
right?
I mean, if you have Claws of Ahamkara, you can melee them once to freeze them, and then melee them again, and it'll shatter them.
Which would be stupid.
But wouldn't a normal melee just shatter them anyways?
Well, yeah, but from a distance.
Yeah, if you're close enough.
But right now, you see everybody running shotguns. Dude, I've been frozen by Warlocks so many times. They just come up and shotgun me.
See, okay, so this is what I wanted to get into, though, as far as where it fits in the game. Because, okay, fine, whatever. Freeze mechanics, the Warlocks having double melees. Honestly, I think a good way to balance that melee, just real quick, as an aside, would be if you get it on the ground near them, that should be the slow effect. And then if you hit them directly, that should be the freeze. I don't know. Just spitballing here.
I would agree with that. I would have said just get rid of the AoE aspect of it. You have to hit them directly. If you're gonna have the strength of being able to insta freeze somebody with a single melee charge, I think you should require to be a little more precise. It is a ball. It's not a tiny like throwing knife, right?
Dude, it's a huge ass freaking.
But it should feel
glacier running at you.
Dude. It should feel like pre-buff bottom tree throwing knife, in my opinion. Just you got to throw it. You got to hit them. Doesn't do any explosion. Doesn't do any AOE. You can't freeze more than one person. You got to hit them with it.
I think personally, it should have like a wind up, like bottom tree throwing knife.
That's what I thought it was going to be. Like you're going to summon the staff and then poke it.
Because it's like Celestial Fire, where it's like instant. Like the second you freaking push the melee button, like that projectile's in the air, moving towards your enemy.
Yeah.
But those one-hit hunter knives, way too broken.
The dodge, man, is busted. We have to nerf
the dodge. F the dodge. So there are two main things I think that will kind of highlight the point that we're making tonight. Basically, this episode. I mean, yeah, we can go on about how busted we think it is. But I think there are two main areas where Stasis provides balance across the board, and it does have its place in the sandbox, in Crucible. PvE, whatever. Make the game as busted as you possibly can in PvE. We all like it when stuff's way too powerful. That was the only time any of us ever ran Wish Ender on purpose, was when it was way too strong. So
it was fun.
It was so much fun. So the two things I think for Stasis, the first being is it is a massive, massive counter. It is the best counterplay to all of the biggest things that people complain about in Destiny. I think shotgun apes, like the ease of use on a shotgun, how fast the movement is in this game, and how easy you can close the gap and just hold down W and all out murder people. Stasis is a very hard counter to that, and it's a very hard counter to roaming supers. So some of the strongest things in the game, Stasis is the best counter, and that includes itself. Stasis is the best counter to Stasis. It feels amazing to shut down a super with literally a grenade, right? In the other aspect,
you freeze each other at the same time, like you're just
yeah,
off both frozen.
It's always awkward. Yeah, and that's like when you're at the store and you walk down an aisle and somebody's walking towards you and you both sidestep to the same direction to get around each other, and it's like this awkward little dance.
It's more like when you're like you bump into someone you know at the store, and then like you guys are walking. Oh, we're paying. Okay, yeah, we're paying. All right, and then you go pay in different lines, and then
And then
like
you see
you
him
guys are
again.
done, and then you go outside the store, and then you're walking the same direction to your car. Like
Yeah.
it's just like so awkward.
So yeah, freezing each other is definitely embarrassingly awkward. But then the other topic too to unpack, and these will both take some time to unpack, obviously. But the other thing is, there were already plenty of cheesy things in this game that we hated. We've already kind of talked about the grapes, right? Handheld Supernova with Controverse Hold. Warlocks have a super strong wombo combo on Top Tree Dawnblade with solar grenades and celestial fire. There's so many other things in the game that are, Striker Titan for the longest time was like, well, that's a Striker Titan. Don't even run away because he's just going to get 2 kills and then reach me all the way back at the spawn. And so there was already so many things. Yeah, like when One-Eyed Mask would proc in your super. Cool.
They would get a regen and a health regen and an overshield, and they can see where you're at.
And tracking. Ultimate training wheels. So those are kind of the two things, is it counters a lot of the stuff that is very strong in this game. And then there's already so many other things in the game that's cheesy and easy to lead into and easy to abuse, to where it's not like getting frozen, right? Because Former said before, like, you come around the corner with somebody with Handheld Supernova, or, a Solar Titan, which for some reason nobody plays, how you can buff up those hammers to a 1-bang. It's like, there's so little counterplay to a lot of the things in the game that Stasis provides counterplay to a lot of. And like I said, there's a lot there. There's a lot to kind of unpack, but that's kind of where I feel like the way that Stasis shipped actually does fit the game to some extent.
So I think it's important to say, I think we're all on the same page with saying that we think that the freezing mechanic does need to be shortened, at least in a PvP setting.
Yes.
The reason freezing feels as strong as it does is it's a full 3 seconds or so, even when you're trying to break out of it. And if you get frozen in the air, that timer doesn't start until your character falls and hits the ground, and then you can start breaking out.
Oh, really?
Know that. Yeah, true story.
That
so I think
then the animation, Guardian. Then you do the animation after, which is another second to that.
Yeah, the animation is like a full 2 seconds, and that's why it takes so freaking long. It's like charges up, it explodes, and your character's in this like, I broke out animation before it like readies and you can move again. So I think we all are in agreement that should either be shortened or potentially another option. I don't know. I think they either need to cut the time in half, or they need to get rid of the fact that you take a chunk of damage when you break out. I think one of the two. I'm fine with taking damage to break out. I don't hate the concept of I can break out faster, but it takes some damage, but then let me break out twice as fast because it takes way too long. Or leave it the same, but just don't make me take a chunk of damage when I pop out. One of the two, I'd rather have the shorter time, honestly.
What if there's an aspect that lets us break out faster?
No.
Would you like that or no?
No.
Well, because then it's only applied to Stasis, right?
Yeah, because then you want to play another light subclass, and it widens that gap that everybody feels like is so grand right now between Stasis and other subclasses.
Or what if it's a fragment?
Which is still also only Stasis. I think in a PvP setting, that timer should just be halved. I think 2 to 3 seconds is way too long to break out of. It gives somebody time to freeze you from across the map, either with a grenade or the Warlock melee or whatever, and then still run all the way over to you and shotgun you before you break out. And like, it should be hey, that guy's frozen, I need to take advantage of it and like shoot at whatever position I'm at. Not, oh cool, let me run over and floss on him. Like, that's a little triggering. And I don't think it would honestly feel any less powerful. It would require people to react faster, but it would give you as the person frozen a potential chance to break out and either maybe make a play, shotgun them back, get behind cover. Maybe if you were behind cover, break out and run away before they come and clean you up because you're one shot. Just make it not feel as hopeless, but still have a benefit to freezing somebody. A minute and a half for them to break out is plenty of time for you to make a play, especially if you have a sniper or you are in close quarters with a shot.
A second and a half?
Yeah, what did I say? Minute?
A minute and a half.
That's a long time.
It feels like that
right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it just takes a long time and you take a lot of damage. And I don't think resilience is I don't think that's a good reason to spec into resilience, I should say.
It does. Yeah, it does make a big difference, it seems like.
Yeah.
But I still don't think that's a great reason
and
to spec into resilience.
Especially for hunter mains, resilience does not take precedence over recovery or mobility. I'm sorry. And you're not going to spec into that specifically to not take as much damage when you shatter out, because even so, with how long it takes, you're probably just going to get domed, and so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Neither a Titan aping will still come in like shotgun you, even before
you
you
don't even
can
have to. They
out.
just slide into you and you die.
Oh yeah, that too.
With their super slide.
That's their aspect with the crystal, whatever it's called, chromatic, whatever. They just slide and break their crystals.
Super
pretty cool.
Slide. Yeah.
Well, like here's my thing. I don't feel like we're not trying to say stasis busted, right? Like, cause I don't think it is, right? It maybe some subclasses, some abilities are a little OP, but outside of that, I mean, it's not as busted as we thought it was last week when we came in and we were like, dude, like 6v6 is like chaotic. It's pretty much mayhem, blah blah blah. By the way, mayhem is this week, so we should give that a shot. But anyway, so what I'm getting at
I'd rather play Gambit.
Do we feel like this is So do we feel like this is pretty balanced overall? Or do we feel like there should be, besides the stuff we talked about right now, the freezing and crap like that, like it's like just flat out right now, like is stasis pretty balanced? Outside of what we just discussed about.
In my personal opinion, I think cut the time it takes to break out of freezing in half across the board in PvP, and change the Warlock melee either to, if you hit with the AoE, like Beard said, it slows them and doesn't freeze them, or it only freezes on direct impact. In my opinion, I feel like that's
needs a little bit of
essentially
trimming too, though.
Oh no.
So
you don't think so? That super lasts 30 seconds without touching your abilities.
Yeah, but have you used Spectral Blades lately? I mean, if we're gonna nerf timers,
but Spectral Blade don't scare me no more, dude. Like, you have no idea how many Spectral Blades I've just thrown my nades, freeze them, and then snipe them.
Dude, I have shut down a Warlock Stasis Super using a bow from a distance. It took 3 shots. It wasn't that big of a deal. He shot his stupid thing at me. I dodged to the side, took another shot at him. He ducked behind cover, and when he peeked, I domed him. It's like...
Okay, so that's one more thing that I wanted to throw out there, because Gamer, you're asking, like, is it balanced? I think there are some tweaks to be made. Yeah. But just that right there, the fact that it's like, okay, I know what's in the game now. And there are aspects, fragments and stuff that I think we still have left to uncover, or whatever. They haven't been released yet. But for the most part, we know what's coming. And so if you just expect for that Warlock to come around with his stupid thing, if you expect that Duskfield grenade, like, I need to stay away from that, I think Stasis, honestly, it's the reason why it sucked so much in the beginning was just because it punished the movement that we're so used to. It punishes the run in, slide around the corner with my shotgun hanging out unapologetically, and then take a freezing grenade to the face, right? But it's like at a distance, now I know, like, okay, that Warlock's going to freeze me. I need a dodge roll, right? Or like that Titan's going to yeet himself over here. I probably need to get moving, ahead of time if possible. So I don't know. I because the freeze mechanic is too strong, it's not always just better movement can solve all your problems.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big part of it.
Positioning becomes just as important as high tier movement, whereas before it all just mattered on how quick you could react and move around the map. You need to be aware of your positioning and not be running around the corner when somebody's right there and can just hit you with a cold snap grenade. Like, you need to cautiously peek, or not be right up against the wall as you're peeking the corner. Stand a ways back as you come out so you aren't as close to them. Like, figure out where your enemy's at before engaging them. It requires more thoughtful play, in my opinion.
Right.
Taka,
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say Taka hasn't said whether or not he feels Stasis is balanced, more or less.
I mean, should we point out the elephant in the room and talk about Whisper of Hedrons?
Again, fragments and aspects in my mind is what breaks Stasis.
I don't even think most of them do, but a massive damage buff off of freezing somebody that enables one-shot body shots with high-impact snipers and...
From Layman Arc, too.
And some other things.
Bunch of
and like
things.
freezing somebody is not.
Can you one shot with Ariana's Vow using that?
More likely.
I think you can.
Well, I mean, almost anything can just one hit you when you're frozen, no matter what, right?
No, I'm talking with the damage buff.
No, this is if you freeze somebody. With
no. I know I have the fragment. I'm just saying, like, no matter what, I feel like if I'm I feel like when I'm frozen, you're dead no matter what, because like the crystals does damage to you.
See,
they come and hit you.
Though. Somebody freezes you, and then they can one shot former with a body shot from a high impact sniper.
Yeah, like so it's not bonus damage on the frozen target. It gives you a damage buff for 5 seconds or whatever. I don't know how long it actually is. 10 seconds. So you get what is it? It's 25%.
25%.
Yeah, 25%.
Yeah, 25% damage buff for 10 seconds just from freezing a dude. So you freeze one dude, you kill him, you turn to his teammate, and now you can one shot body shot him with your revoker or whatever.
I'm pretty sure it stacks with other damage buffs because it's an innate ability. So kill clip, rampage, swashbuckler, multi-kill clip, all should stack.
Which is insane.
Yeah. So
especially because you see a lot of warlocks running Claws of Ahamkara, and
I'm actually curious now if you freeze somebody and then punch them, if you can one shot to the body with the old biting winds.
Oh, because it has swashbuckler.
It'd have a ×5 swashbuckler and a 25% damage buff.
See, and this is so getting into the fragments, and just to kind of give you my take, gamer, to your question is like, is it balanced? I would say no, because there are some glaring issues with it. I don't think it needs massive changes, but just the fact that it's not difficult to abuse. Like, it's not hard at all to equip stasis and go on massive kill sprees. So many assists. It's like, how do you not end a match with 30, 40 eliminations? Like, it's easy. It is easy to get a lot of kills now with stasis, and I don't like that. I don't like the game making things easier to get kills. That's why everybody hated snipers the past couple of seasons, because they were so lenient. Stasis is in and of itself, like I mentioned, is a very good counter to a lot of other crappy things in the game, but it just, in my opinion, it does make things too easy. It is a little too easy to get tons of kills.
Yeah. And I asked this because, like, you go on Twitter, go on Reddit, you go on Facebook, everybody has like their own opinion, like, dude, this is so busted, this is so ridiculous. Like, I just feel like, have you guys ever played a PvP game where there's a freezing ability?
Yes.
Like other games?
Yeah, like other games besides this one.
They're super triggering, and usually it's the character I hate the most in the game. Why?
Right.
Usually their DPS is really low.
Exactly.
To offset it.
And that's how it's balanced.
And that's what I say. And that's why it's balanced. And you can't play more of that same character, right? It's always like one person can only be that. You know what I mean? Like, so right now it's running chaotic because, like, everybody does that, right? So, like, how would you guys like it if, you know, for competitive or for trials, you would say you can only run one subclass of each kind?
Well, I would hate that.
Right? Exactly. So like that me neither. Like, I wouldn't like that because, like, the Destiny's a fantasy game, right? Like, you want to be able to play the way you want to play, right? So, like, that's what I'm saying. Where, like, I don't feel like it's super busted. Where, like, we need something like that. Where, like, no, you can play only solar. You can only play stasis. Like, your teammate can only pick one of each kind. Because, like, I don't feel like Destiny's that type of game. You know what I mean? It's a power fantasy. You know, I talked about that last time. You know, you want to be a space cowboy, be a space cowboy. You want to be a space wizard, be a space wizard. You want to be, you know, this dude who can King Kong. You know, be King Kong. You know what I mean? Like do whatever you want.
Douchebag.
You know what I mean? Like do that. You know, I just feel like people just need to chill. Yes, like Crucible is a little chaotic, but it's still pretty fun. Comp is a whole different story. Like, I don't like the changes they did to it, but I feel like if you take the sandbox where it's at, remove stasis out of the game, but, like, put the sandbox where it's at, it feels really balanced. Like, with the weapons, with the abilities, like, everything feels nice. You can counter snipers now. You can, you know, and what stasis has done, like, it pushes you to play a different way. That's why we were all pissed last week, because you wanted to continue playing the same way you played before, But then Stasis kind of like took that off. You know what I mean? They slowed down the game, which I think I kind of do like. You know, like I got on today and I was talking to TTaka. I'm like, dude, I'm getting down the sniping stuff. I can't snipe like I used to. I got to play a little different because either I'm going to get frozen if I come out too much, or like, you know, some a-hole's going to hit me from behind. You know what I mean? So like, you got to play different. And then I think that's why people are so mad, because they want to use their sunsetted weapons, and they want to like use other things that are gone in the game, and you have to adapt to a new style of game. Like that, like Beyond Light feels like a brand new game, right? So like if it's a new feeling of a brand new game, then we should like adapt to a new style of playing.
Yeah, I keep going back to the concept that yes, freezing is very strong, but the delayed ability regeneration in my mind brings a lot of balance to the table. I think people may just not be aware of or won't be willing to admit, because yeah, somebody comes around the corner with a super, I can technically freeze him and shut him down before he breaks out, which, by the way, in your super, when you get frozen, you break out about twice as fast, if not faster. And so, but I have to have that ability up. And if I'm running rampant, chucking my grenade every time it's available, then when that guy pops his super, I'm not ready for it. And if I'm being cautious and I'm being aware of, hey, we're playing elimination, it's round 3 or 4, they should be getting a super sometime soon, I'm probably not using my grenade in a situation that I could otherwise, because I'm preparing ahead of time for the fact that a super could be popped. And so, is it busted? Not when you can't just spam them all the time. Like, I have to be selective with when I throw that grenade. And I think you get more into the competitive style game modes, and that becomes much more apparent. Whereas, yeah, if you hop into a 6v6, it's happening all the time. And to that point, I think the main reason people are upset about Stasis is because their main complaint, right, is I get frozen all the time and there's nothing I can do about it. But we have to understand, and you have to admit that this is the first time that across the board, across all 3 Stasis subclasses, a lot of the abilities are shared, specifically the grenades, right? That's not something that's ever happened before. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to compare it to, say, Void, if I die to a handheld supernova, I respawn, and then I get shoulder charged by a Sentinel Titan, I don't get pissed that Void needs to be nerfed, because those are 2 separate abilities. But when we're playing against a bunch of Stasis players, we don't take into account that the first time I got frozen, it was by a Titan's grenade, and then the second time it was by 2 Shuriken. Like we don't take that into account. It's just I got frozen again. It's a stupid game, and we're connecting 2 abilities that are completely different and have their own level of balance to them. And when it comes to the grenades, they're the same across the board. So you can get hit by a cold snap from one character, you get hit by a cold snap from another character, someone chucks the wall right on top of you. Like, we're upset about freezing, but in the other subclasses, you would have otherwise just died. And so,
that is true.
You know,
exactly. Well, in a lot of games too, you're playing against 6 other people, all using Stasis, because it's the new thing. It's what people want to use. It's fun. It's different. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, you're going to get frozen a lot more than if there was only 1 or 2 or 3 Stasis users on the enemy team, which I think it will be like in a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road, when some of the newness factor has kind of worn off.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because there's still going to be those people in trials who do not want to part ways with their movement on Top Tree Dawn, right?
I think people are going to forget about it. Like, they're going to be all focused on Stasis, and they're going to go up against somebody playing Top Tree Dawn, and they'll be like, oh, wow, it's really broken being able to Icarus dodge and have Celestial Fire and Solar Grenades.
Wait, my Cold Snap doesn't hit him when he's floating in the air?
I miss being able to go invisible on Night Stalker, you know, like,
so that, and
I want to go back to that.
And there are going to be people who go, yeah, I think the Hunter Super in Stasis is really weak. I'm going to go back to my Blade Barrage or my Arc Strider, whatever it is, you know, Spectral Blades. And so there definitely will be people who just personally, you know, feel like they resonate a little bit more with some other subclass in the game, or they feel it's a little bit more competitive, and they're going to jump ship from Stasis and move over. And I definitely think if you go from 12 people in a match, right, or all 6 in a 3v3 mode running Stasis to, let's even say it's half, right? You know, 1 to 3 people per team. Well, then that's so many less opportunities, because if you throw a dust field grenade down and then somebody also throws a shuriken at that person, well, then they're just instantly frozen, and then you feel like, yeah, F stasis, this is ridiculous. But it's if there's half the freezing abilities on the field, I do feel like people are going to get frozen a lot less. Or maybe people will just learn to stop running around with their shotguns hanging out, and then actually sit and get into a primary fight at a reasonable distance. And so I do think with
more shotguns coming out,
which is interesting to me because like I feel like this is one of the hardest counters to shotgun apes, and people are like leaning into it even heavier.
Yeah, but I feel like they don't run around with the shotgun equipped. They have it ready for when they get the freeze or they get somebody weak to clean up or to rush in.
Which is what a shotgun should be.
Which is why stasis is a good thing, in my opinion.
Exactly, and now I feel like you can take in your double primary and actually do really good with stasis. You know what I mean? Like I said, like to remove stasis aside, like let's just like if we focus on just the sandbox itself, I think it's at a really good place where pretty much you can play like with any weapons you want and do really, really good.
Hand cannons are good, auto rifles are good, pulse rifles are really good.
Pulse rifles
and the nerf to auto rifles, like you can feel it. Like I don't feel like I was as lethal as I was like last season.
Yeah.
By the way, just throwing it out there.
Scouts are still crap.
Have you used them?
Midas pretty good.
I mean, yeah.
But Mida feels really good actually, like super good.
So
if there's, oh yeah,
I was gonna say Taka and I did play comp the other night, and I don't think we ever complained once about a single stasis ability the entire time. And we did actually see multiple teams where there was only one or two stasis player on the other side. People were going back to their light subclasses they like to play with. The only thing we were upset about was the change to the lives and how passive that game mode has become, because people will play to life advantage, not to completely beat the other team. And it was very frustrating. But stasis was not the topic of discussion that night. And we played a good, 8 games. How many did we play, Taka? It was
quite a few, yeah.
It was quite a few. And I got frozen. It's not that it didn't happen, but it was not every game. It was not every round. It wasn't all the time. And when it happened, it's because I was usually in a position I shouldn't have been, or they were pushing up and I didn't back up, I didn't create distance. I usually got punished for whatever reason, and it was not as common as when you hop into a control playlist where you're also forced to be on specific points of the map where you're easy targets for freezing abilities.
Did they mention that they were changing that at all?
Not that I'm aware
I
of.
didn't see.
I don't remember that ever being mentioned.
See, like especially like I mean, I like all I do is comp, man. Like I love comp, and like I'm just so upset with that change because especially in a 3v3, you're adding 2 extra lives. It's just not that there's a disadvantage for it because everybody starts off with like 6 lives, but like kind of what former Guardian is saying, it just makes each game, each round very, very more passive. It's okay, we wiped out the team. They just sit back. They just team shot from now on, get a pick, and then you just keep pushing yourself back and back and back and back, and like there's no engagement to any fight anymore. Versus like when it.
Go ahead.
No, keep going.
You interrupted me. Sorry, I don't buy that there's extra lives. It's just the fact that life advantage is a thing, and that having more lives just makes people play more to that life advantage, which makes people play more passively, and the games go by slower.
So real quick, just for context, for anyone who doesn't know, survival used to be you had 4 lives, and each death would subtract a life. Same thing, but you have 6 on each team now. And as far as we can tell, it doesn't seem like they've increased the time per round at all. And so more often than not, rounds are going towards who has life advantage, or you're playing capture the flag at the end for the win, rather than just eliminating all of your opponent's lives. And so it entices people to be ahead by 1 life and notice there's 30 seconds on the timer, and instead of running at the other team, they turn around and run to the other end of the map, waiting for the time to expire. And it makes the game so much more passive because it's enticing people to play more passively because they're being rewarded for it.
Well, see, like back then it was like that back when it was 4v4, which I didn't mind because there's 2 extra players on each team, the one on each, so it's like, why make that change on a 3v3? Like I would have bring it back to 4v4 if that was the case. I don't know. It just I'm not a huge fan of that.
Yeah.
My theory, and I don't think this excuses anything. I don't think this is a good change to comp, and I haven't played it. I'm relying solely on what you guys have told me. My theory though is that they were accounting for how lethal stasis was going to be, and seeing how high the kill count is after a control match, I think they were probably planning on people getting killed faster. And I think they just preemptively said, we're going to make this the lives higher because 4 lives is going to go by way too quick. People are going to get killed way faster with stasis. We need to up it a little bit. But like you guys said, stasis was not the topic of discussion after 1 or 2 people are playing it in a comp on the other enemy team in a comp match.
Yeah.
It's more the fact of that change is frustrating, and I think that kind of testifies to the fact that with less people, once the newness of stasis is worn off and people go back to their favorite subclasses, it's not going to be as big of a deal. I think this whole issue with comp kind of, like I said, it plays into that, but I don't. From what I've heard from you guys, I'm not very enticed to go play comp if it's just going to be get down to 1 or 2 life advantage and then run away.
So I would say the most frustrating game we played was on Midtown, which already spawns you at extremes of the map, and it's essentially a long rectangle the way that the map's already laid out and the way the spawns are. And the other team had 2 people with pulse rifles. The 2 people with pulse rifles also had a shotgun. And the other guy had a sniper, and I don't know what he had with it. But the sniper would body shot us, and the pulses would clean us up, and they would sit at the back of the map. And so we would have to push up to get an angle on them. 1 or 2 of us would get cleaned up by the time we got close enough to kill them. And when they would die, they'd spawn on the other side of the map. And so it was the entire game you're having to run to the other side of the map to even find the teammates. They were just laning in the back, and as the game got close to the end of the timer, 2 of the players were Titans, and they would throw up barricades and camp behind them. And that was the game. That was the game we played for 6-7 rounds because it went back and forth. When
Widow's Court, terrible for comp now.
It was that specific
Widow's
scenario.
Court, that would be awful.
Yeah,
we had one on Widow's Court too, and it was the same.
Terrible.
Where
they were sniping.
Got down to 30 seconds left. They had a 1 life advantage, and it was no longer keep fighting 5 minutes. Let's see if we can run a circle around the entire map because we're top 3 Dawnblade Warlocks.
Yeah, that one was even a 2v3. So they were even quote at a disadvantage, right? Not even true. They'd get a pick, they'd have a life advantage, and they'd just keep their distance from us. And
not a survival. Survival. If you have 1 less person, you pretty much have an advantage on survival.
Yeah. Well, because they were both sniping too, and so they'd get a pick, and it was like they're up on lives.
It's not like Elam when you have 1 less person, it hurts you. Like when you have 1, like when I run it with like an extra person, and there's a blueberry that just keeps wasting our lives and he bounces. I prefer that 100% more than just because then together you can just take 1 out, run away, take 1 out, run away. Like you can just play it a lot easier and way safer than versus 1 guy who just keeps aping and just wasting all your life.
It was very, very frustrating. And
super.
I honestly think if they would have just left it at 4, it would have been great. I didn't see any mountaintops. I didn't see any revokers. There wasn't any anything like that as far as compared to comp last year. Comp last season was rough, and none of that existed. I got sniped. I got killed by pulses. I got killed by shotguns. I got frozen a few times. The most triggering thing by far was people just being passive and hiding in the back of the map. It's just not fun.
Yeah.
It's boring.
Which, like you said, wasn't a stasis related issue.
No, not at all.
That would happen with 0 stasis on the field.
And I honestly hope they revert the change back to 4 lives. That's all. That's all I think they need to do to it is just go back to what it was. I think it was a bad change. Maybe it was because they were concerned about stasis. Maybe they just thought they wanted to switch up the playlist because it's comp and it's just survival now, and it kind of doesn't have an identity. Nobody really has a reason to play it unless they just like playing survival.
I hope they don't try to slip in some type of change in trials. Some unannounced random thing.
That would be a bad backlash.
No, I mean, you're going to piss off a lot of players. I feel like there's people that probably play trials more religiously than comp do, so it's
There's also no new armor and weapons to begin with, so we don't need to go messing with... Yeah, that's not... No.
That's not sexy enough.
That doesn't help 90-something% of the community. Even 90% of people who play trials, I don't think is going to have that big... Unless luck smiles on them and the few times they go flawless, they get the perfect roll with the right masterwork, the right stat distributions, the right perks. And there's too much RNG tied to that to affect the average person. I think it's the people who can continuously farm flawless are the only ones who are going to benefit from those.
So, Bungie, if you're listening, or, just one of our fans, or even my mom, because I know my mom listens to us every single week, we just need to get the word out there that Bungie needs to just put comp back the way it was. Just put it back, because it's still the most efficient way to farm, just to level up.
Yep.
Like, you just sit there and you win 7 matches, however long that takes you,
Well,
and
they
then
changed
every
that.
rank up.
Yeah, they changed that because before you didn't have a powerful in there. Like that's like something new. Before it was tied into the 3 or 4 wins, whatever it was last season, and then if you finish that in Valor, then it goes away in comp. I liked how they added that in part of it, which is kind of cool. But then like every time you rank up, like you're still going to get a powerful drop, which is sweet, which is why you do comp in the beginning of the season. But after that, there really isn't chase anymore. Like I said last week, and I'm really holding on to that too. It's like right now, like this season, like comp just doesn't feel like there's any reason to do it unless you're level grinding. Other than that, like really comp isn't like if you're already gotten broken, you're like there's no like pinnacles to get to push you towards towards legend. Like I'm so mad that Not Forgotten is in that you can buy it because it took me like a few seasons to get it, and it took blood, sweat, and tears. Like
The game mode should just be fun on its own, though.
That's
how I feel about freelance. Is like, and I haven't played it since they made the changes, but like I would go into freelance all the time just because it's like this is fun. This is more of a challenge than control, right? I like the challenge, and I go into Crucible by myself and play because there's a challenge and there's a skill ceiling, and I'm practicing and I'm getting better. If the game mode itself just isn't fun, like I'll go and play a game mode that's fun and a challenge, even if there isn't a ton of loot incentive, and I know I might be in the minority.
What, you don't like 3 blues?
I love them.
Right now you do.
Sorry, what are you
I'll say in
talking?
freelance, you do see slightly less people playing for the life advantage.
Yeah, freelance is
Games who are coordinated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, freelance is sweet. I always freelance the first like half of the like legend grind, and then the other half I need a team because that's when you start seeing like the cheeses and stuff.
So I guess to kind of just put our thoughts kind of just into a final word, and if I'm off on this, let me know. But I do think that the 4 of us kind of agree that yes, obviously there are some issues that need addressing. And I'm not talking about bugs and stuff because that's obvious, right? The comp issue aside, I really do think that if you try to force stasis into what Destiny 2 was last season, without considering the fact that, and I mentioned this in our, in our group chat, I said that in an alternate timeline, in an alternate reality, this probably would have been a Destiny 3 release and not just a new expansion for Destiny 2. And so if you don't try to force stasis into a box and say this doesn't fit, this doesn't work, if you open up your mind a little bit and consider the fact that this would have been a new Destiny title, I think stasis is a much easier pill to swallow. Issues aside, right? Because we know that, the freezing needs to be addressed. There needs to be some type of comeback mechanic. It can't just be like, I'm frozen, so I'm basically dead, because that's not fun. But if you kind of consider this as like this would have been a third title, I think it's easier to kind of just relax a little bit and just have fun with it, because for whatever reason, for as much as freezing sucks when you get frozen, shutting down a super or shutting down a shotgun ape, like, it is fun. It's fun to have a counter to the stuff that was already very, very strong in the game. So
absolutely,
that's what I think.
Yep.
Well, should we go shoot each other in the head?
I'm down.
In the game, of course. Should we go freeze each other? Maybe that's a better. Let's go throw some shurikens at each other.
Let's do it.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you are here with us live, we stream every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. AZ time. Never changes for us in this state. On Facebook and on Twitch, 9 p.m. And then you can always find our show afterwards as well. If you want to see our cute faces, you can find us on YouTube, Tower Talk Show. You can find us on Spotify as well. If you don't want to see our cute faces, you just want to listen to our cute voices. Yeah, so thanks for tuning in. Taka, where can people hang out with you after the show?
You can catch me on Twitter at TheTaka.
Boom. Former Guardian?
Also on Twitter at Former Guardian. Hit me up.
Hit him up. And Gamer?
You can catch me on Twitter, catch me streaming on Twitch at Not So Gamer, and you can catch me trying to attempt World's First this Saturday.
Yeah, you're going to be participating. You'll be...
Yes.
Are you going to be streaming the whole thing?
Yes. I'll probably get on like an hour or two before the raid race and just dick around, and then once the raid race hits, it's go time. We're probably going to go... What was that?
10 a.m.?
10 a.m. Arizona time, so it's like 12 Eastern, I believe.
No,
right?
when does the raid open?
Yeah, right, reset.
Oh, okay.
Reset. So what time is that in Washington? 9 Eastern?
I don't live in Washington.
What time is it in California right now?
9.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So you're okay. So yeah. So then it's 9 Eastern, 10 Pacific time.
Dude, you're gonna be late. You can't wait that long to jump on.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm confused.
What do you mean?
You need to be ready to go.
Why are we talking about time zones?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we're talking about when the raid opens.
Yeah, 10 a.m. for you.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's 9 a.m. in Washington is when it...
It's 9 a.m. for me.
Yeah, 9 a.m. for former. So 9 a.m. Eastern.
You know what?
10...
You know what? You figure out your time. It's your trip.
West Pacific.
Pacific.
Anyways, 10 a.m. Arizona time. I'm going to wake up at 8, start streaming 8:30, 9 o'clock my time, and then we'll get ready for the raid.
Dope.
Choo-choo.
We'll see you there. Yeah, and you can find me on Twitter as well at TheRealBeard. I think that's it. Let's go freeze each other.
Yep.
Let's do it.
See ya.
See ya.